Hey, hey, hey. Time for another Out of This World story from rSpace. She wanted a storybook thrill. What she got was the brutal reality check that life isn't a fantasy. Today on rSpace, reality isn't negotiable, and it has a terrible habit of hitting harder than any fantasy ever could. Wife cheated with her work husband in the office. I made sure they both lost their careers. My ex-wife cheating on me was the thing that made me realize that trying to be a normal, kind human being isn't worth it. I've always been a more mild-mannered person, and that's one of the things that she said she liked the most about me. But at the end of the day, it wasn't enough for her to choose to commit to me and stay faithful. She still walked out on her marriage to go and sleep with the kind of guy who presents himself closer to that bad boy persona that women supposedly love so much. She used to say that she wasn't into that, but look how quickly things can change. I'm writing this from the point where we've already been divorced, and I'm so glad that that's the case. It has been tough for me, but it is a necessary struggle that I'm just going to have to figure out how to pull through. But I'm getting ahead of the story that I need to narrate. I know there's a lot of that people can learn from this, because I know I've learned a lot from the experiences that people have shared with here. So let me get into it. My ex-wife, Jess, 34 female, and I, 35 male, had been married for 7 years at the time of this entire thing happened. Things were fine for us. We had what I consider to be a very typical marriage. Arguments here and there, but nothing too major. We were both working, and we both had decided that we didn't want to have children because things were hard enough as they were. However, we knew we'd be able to adopt if we ever changed our minds at a point when it was too late. We were slowly making more money too. Things were just generally good for us, which is why it hurts even more that her own selfishness is the entire reason why everything fell apart for us. Jess worked in marketing and communication at a consultancy firm in the big city that we lived in, and it was a pretty cushy job for her to have. Since it was a big company, there were a lot of coworkers, though the ones that she talked about the most were the ones who worked in the same department as her. Of course, some of these coworkers were male, and I never batted an eyelid at that, because you're insecure if you have to put yourself on guard regarding every single male that your partner is around. There were quite a few she mentioned often, but she mentioned them as often as she mentioned Kayla, Madeline, and some of the other girls, so again, there was no reason that I had to fret. However, I need to mention that one of those male coworkers that I wasn't worrying myself about was a guy called Brett. She had described him as a younger guy, about like 5 years or so. He dressed in a very fashion-forward way, wore a lot of black and a lot of jewelry when he wasn't in the office, and he rode a motorcycle too. I didn't know what he looked like for a long time, but he gave me the stereotypical bad boy image in my head. When I finally saw what he looked like, it fit the bill pretty accurately. I wasn't threatened by him though. There was no reason for me to be threatened by him over all of the other people that she worked with. I am a handsome guy too, even if I don't have the bad boy vibe. But again, she never gave the impression that that was the kind of thing that she was into. So even less reason for me to feel like he was going to be a problem. However, I realized that there was going to be a big issue when she made a joke that rubbed me entirely the wrong way. The worst part was that she didn't see anything wrong with it. I'm not sure if I'm the only one who has many experiences with women oversharing information that men would never want to hear. I've had one too many exes who were very eager to tell me about great sexual experiences they had had in the past, or a few who felt like it wasn't problematic to emphasize how big a past partner's dick was. That's not the kind of thing any guy wants to hear. Likewise, no guy wants to hear their partner tell them about a work husband. She was narrating a story that had happened at work that day. They had to pair up for some sort of task, and when her smaller group was trying to figure out the pairings, she said that she got paired with Brett because everyone says he's my work husband. Even just saying that, she seemed to blush a little, as if she liked the fact that she had a work husband. Ever since that term surfaced on social media, I hated it so much, especially because a lot of the time, it is a term used for people who have an actual husbands at home. I find it very disrespectful, but apparently the women of today don't share my stance on that. She kept telling the story without even a pause, because it didn't seem to register any red flags in my head. I had already tuned out of what she was narrating, but I waited until she was done so that I could tell her how I felt about that term. I let her know that I don't like it at all, because it seemed kind of disrespectful to the real husband that she had. What was I at that point? A home husband? She basically said I was overreacting without using those exact words. According to her, she was just saying that what other people had said. She never said that she agreed with it. I told her that she didn't have to explicitly agree with it because I could read her body language, and I could tell that she didn't have much of an issue with that term being used with her in the office. at least not with Brett. She scoffed and told me that he wasn't her type and that I don't need to make a big deal about it. She said that she'd leave that out of any stories that she told me in the future. It annoyed me because I could tell she was grudgingly compromising. She wasn't actually seeing my point, and that was a bit annoying to me. I let it go, though, because I wasn't in the mood for a big fight. However, in the weeks that came after that, every time that she mentioned Brett, I found myself a little triggered. I refused to let her know that or let it show because I hate being seen as an insecure person. And I knew it was my insecurity playing a big role in that moment. I kept feeling like there was something she was concealing from me now, and that I would never know the entire truth because I had no idea what was going on in her workplace. I started to feel way too anxious whenever she went to work and she was telling me stories of what happened. Brett's name would just make alarms go off in my head. It sounded silly to me, but I knew that the only way for me to feel better about the situation was going to be for me to see what their rapport was actually like, especially when no one else was around. So I told myself I was going to snoop through her phone. This wasn't the kind of thing I could directly ask her about because there was no reason to believe that she was going to be honest with me if I did. And if there happened to be something going on between the two of them, me bringing it up with her would just be the sign that she needed to go ahead and delete all of the evidence. The opportunity for me to check her phone came about a week and a half after that. She came home late, took a shower, and fell into bed almost immediately. She was exhausted because they were working on something big at the firm she worked at. As soon as I could hear her lightly snoring, I grabbed her phone because she had left it somewhere that was really easy for me to get to it. I immediately went into her messages and decided to read through her chats with Brett. I'm extremely happy that I let my anxiety get the better of me because it was there that I saw what the actual relationship between her and Brett was like. It alternated between them talking about casual stuff like sports, TV shows, and internet trends, and then sometimes I could see them checking in on each other like whether they had gotten home safe or whether each other's bad mood had gotten better. While I didn't like that, it wasn't too bad. It just didn't align with the image she had given me of this guy being a friend at work and not a friend outside of work. However, as I continued to go up through the messages, I saw a few instances where things were very clearly sexual. There was a lot of flirting here and there, but there was at least 3 separate occasions where these two people were basically sexting each other. That would have been enough for me to have filed for divorce that very week, but the thing that made me realize how bad things truly were was when I saw a little conversation between them. "I've never filmed before. That was different," followed by a laugh emoji. That was Jess. Then, "I told you it'd be different, but in a good way." Jess asked him if she could get the link. Then he sent her the link to his Google Drive. I had a feeling of what was going to be behind that link, but I really hoped that there was some chance that I was wrong. Regardless, I sent it over to my chat with her, deleted the evidence that I had sent it, and then went over to my phone to open it. I was scared that the link wouldn't be available any longer, but thankfully for me, it was. That was what confirmed my fears. It was a tape that the two of them had shot. It was just 4 minutes long, and it was taken with the phone in front of the two of them. Jess was bent over a table. He was behind her, and you get the idea. What made it even worse was that it was clearly in a conference room at their workplace. This was what she was busy getting up to with her work husband. The same one she was telling me wasn't a threat. I've never felt so stupid in my life. I felt like I should have seen it all along, yet somehow I didn't see it at all, and I hated myself for it. It was really hard for me to watch the whole video, but somehow I did. I haven't watched more than brief sections of it ever since. It's hard to describe that kind of pain I feel when I watch it, but it has helped me continue to resent her. I made sure to download the file to my phone, and I uploaded it to my own Google Drive just so that I could be on the safe side in case she found out I had the video and tried to destroy my phone. I also had to grab her phone again and document the flirty and lewd messages, since I hadn't done that the first time. After that, I put her phone back, grabbed my pillow, and went to sleep on the couch. I wanted to wake her up that very moment and confront her, but I really needed to calibrate myself, since I was operating on pure rage. For someone who is usually mild-mannered, it is really hard for me to express how angry the entire thing made me. I don't know when I was going to confront her, but she ended up making me do that when she woke up in the morning, concerned, asking why I had gone to sleep on the couch. I tried to hold it in, but looking at her face just really annoyed me, and before I knew it, I exploded. I told her that I had always had a bad feeling about Brett, but I knew for a fact now that my bad feeling was entirely justified. She said, "What are you talking about, babe?" And that pissed me off even more. I told her not to play games with me because I knew all about them. I asked her if she wanted to lie and act like she hadn't been getting up to no good with Bretty, as she called him several times in their messages. She had never called him that around me, so she instantly knew that I knew something, but she didn't seem to know how much. She apologized profusely and admitted that she had let the work husband designation get to her more than it should have, and because of that, she made the mistake of starting to flirt with him, but it never went beyond our text messages. We don't even do all that in the office. I laughed out of pure pain when she said that, because I knew exactly what they got up to in the office, and I didn't even want to think of that in that moment. She worked in communications, so I knew that she was good with her words, but I was glad that I wasn't going to let them sway me. I already knew what the truth was, and I let her know that. I told her once again that there was no point in lying because I knew the full extent of the relationship. She paused before she answered, because she was trying to gauge exactly what it was that I knew. I told her that I knew they had sex, and if she wanted to deny it, she could, but I knew what the truth was. Before she could answer, I told her that I was going to file for divorce, and if she didn't want to see a side of me that she had never seen before, she shouldn't bother to beg me or try to prevent it. She was talking in almost a whisper, but I could hear her saying that it wasn't what it looked like. She didn't have the balls to say it out loud because I was so close to snapping, and she knew that things would get very messy if she pushed me to that point. I told her to take off for work as she planned to do that morning. She said that she didn't want to go, that she wanted to talk to me. I told her that the last thing I wanted to do was talk to her any more than I already had, and that I was dead serious. I walked out on her because I couldn't stand it, and I felt like I was so close to snapping in a way that I was unfamiliar with. I've never had to deal with something as heavy as this, and I really felt like I was going to hurt her if I didn't. I came back into the house about 2 hours later, and she was still there. She whispered that she wanted to talk, but I acted like I didn't hear it. I was curious to know what she wanted to say, but I was afraid it would set me off. I told her that she had until the very next morning to get all of her things out of the apartment. I had been living there before we got married, so I was certainly not going to be the one to move out for her. That same day, I left the house to go and meet with a divorce lawyer, and when I got back, she was still at home, very slowly packing some essentials for herself. She told me that she wouldn't be able to pack everything in time, but I let her know that I didn't care about her ordeal. She had put me through worse, and packing on short notice wasn't the worst thing that could happen to her in her life. She had the audacity to say, "I don't like this version of you." I couldn't even say anything to that, because she was the one who brought it out of me. I just shook my head. She left the house that very night, instead of the next morning, and I was happy about it, especially because she accepted her fate and stopped begging towards the end. A few days later, I served her with divorce papers, and she signed them almost right away. The way she had suddenly started cooperating was something I should have been happy about, but there was a nagging feeling that she was moving things along quickly because she wanted to be free to be with Brett. Again, it could be my insecurity that was talking at that point. Even for the actual divorce, she didn't want to take things to court. She was willing to sacrifice alimony and make things quick. She just wanted to be able to keep her car, and she wanted us to cut our joint savings down the middle. As much as I wanted to make her life hell, she was being reasonable, so I took the offer, and we were able to get things finalized at the negotiation stage of things. That was too easy for her, though. She was trying to run from the consequences of her actions, and she was doing a very good job at it. She didn't even need to go through the stress of drawn-out divorce. Lucky her. So I chose to make things hurt real bad, especially since she had already let me off the hook for alimony. I had the video of the two of them having a quickie in the workplace, and blurring both of their faces, I sent them to our company's email address. I let them know that 2 of their employees were having intimate relations on company time and on company premises, and that was a major concern, especially because the company frowned on fraternization between employees. Doing it in the office was the ultimate middle finger to that policy. I didn't get a response to that, though, so I decided to hunt down her boss's email address, and I sent the same thing to him instead. He was far enough removed from her and Brett that I was sure he'd want the right thing to be done, and he wouldn't cover up for them. I got a response from him letting him know that they'd be opening an investigation into the situation. I did get a request for the uncensored video, which I shared. It was mostly just suggestive movements. You couldn't see the significant bits. The moment I got that request, I knew the company just wanted to confirm their identities. I got an email from her boss's boss several weeks later, telling me that they had come to a conclusion and they were going to terminate the 2 of them. I acted like I wasn't ecstatic, but I was. I knew that Brett would be so pissed off at her for getting them fired. I have no idea if they chose to be together at that point, but if they had, it would have been even sweeter for me. Expectedly, she came to the house the day after, and the moment I opened the door, she barged in and started raising her voice and pointing a finger in my face. I tried my best to keep calm. I tried to get a word in on several occasions, but she just kept talking over me, so I let her finish. She was angry about what I had done, and according to her, I had already chosen to divorce her, so my revenge plot was pure evil at that point. I told her I didn't mind being pure evil. She had made me that way. I laughed a little bit at that, and she flipped out and went on another tirade for over 10 minutes. When she was done, I told her to get out of my house. When she was at the front door, I let her know that it'd be a good idea to dust off her resume. She spun around and tried to slap me, but I moved back in time. She wanted to say something, but she didn't, and she walked out. Her LinkedIn shows that she's currently looking for work, and it has been that way for some time. It makes me happy every time that I see it, because at this moment, she deserves nothing but misery and stress, and I hope that the universe gives them to her. It's what she needs for cheating on me. She completely lost touch with reality. 7 years of marriage weren't enough to ground her, so she ran headfirst into some twisted fantasy where she could have it all: the excitement of a bad boy coworker, the thrill of secrecy, and the delusion that she could get away with it without consequences. Every work husband joke, every flirtatious message, every little wink and laugh with Brett was her saying, loud and clear, "I don't care about you. I don't care about us. I only care about my thrill." She wasn't confused. She wasn't swept away by passion. She was selfish and entitled. What do you make of this? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time.